So we made it through Tishrei. We made it through the marathon of the high holidays. Now what? Now what do we do with the rest of our life? What do we do with the rest of this year? This should be the question on the heart and mind of every Jewish man and woman. You see, we have been set apart as a special people for a special purpose. So this means that we shouldn't be like everyone else, where in the non-Jewish calendar, New Year's is January 1st, and everyone sets New Year's resolutions, and then by Valentine's Day, 6 weeks later, all of those New Year's resolutions have already fallen by the wayside. They say that the best time to start or join a gym membership is the middle of February because it's so packed and crowded in January. So by February, it's a complete wasteland, and so they're having to run specials to get people back into the gym. So we don't want to be like everybody else. God created us to be different. What about you? Have you thought about what is your goal? What is your purpose for this coming year? You see, right now is when the pedal hits the metal. So we have to think about, okay, all of the excitement, the inspiration of the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the fun, the celebration of Sukkot and Simchat Torah, that's gone. So now what do? You see, the founder of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, whose name is Rabbi Shner Zalman, he says that we have to live with the times. What does that mean? It means that there is something that we can take from the weekly Parsha, the weekly Torah portion, that can inspire us and guide us in our everyday life. So we just finished Parshas Bereshis, which of course is the most famous Parsha in the entire Torah, which is the beginning, the creation of the world and Adam and Eve. And now the second Parsha right behind that is the Parsha all about the flood. It's called Parshat Noach. And that's the Parsha that we are in this week. So what can we take as Jewish men and women to apply to our everyday practical lives from this Parsha? Well, this is what I want us to think about for just the next couple of minutes. You see, every single one of us, whether, it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how new you are to Torah, or if you've lived it your entire life, which I have not. So there's something that we can all take away with this. You may run your own business. You may work a corporate job. You may be in a phase of your life where you're home with the kids. You may be in college. You may be in a phase of wandering and truly trying to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life, or at least with the next phase of your life. And there's something that we must all dig deep and think about with our purpose. You see, every single one of us, we can either be a consumer or we can be a creator. We can be a follower or we can be a leader. We can be a buyer or we can be a seller. And we were each put here in this world to make a difference for a very specific purpose, to influence the universe around us. How do you know that's true? Maybe you never stopped and thought about what is your specific purpose and are you meant to be a powerful person or not? I can tell you for sure, I know you are powerful and you were put here for a very specific purpose. How do we know that? Because you're here. You're on this planet, living and breathing with a pulse today. You know, there's an old saying, God didn't have time to make a nobody. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe tells us that the day you were born is the day that God decided the world could not live without you. So the fact that you are still here by nature means you have a job to do. So you can decide if you want to spend this year as a consumer, or if you want to step into your purpose, into your true ultimate greatness, and manifest and actualize the entire reason why you were created. Can you just imagine how mind-blowing that would be? So what is your dream for this year? Have you stopped to think about it? Not a New Year's resolution, but your dream. What is your purpose? See, it's been said that God plants our dreams deep inside our heart and soul because as we have the courage to pursue those dreams, that's where our destiny unfolds. And as we set out in pursuit of this dream, that is how God delivers us to our divinely ordained purpose. So what is your dream for this year? Maybe you're somebody who grew up and you weren't taught to dream big. Maybe you were never taught to dream at all. Maybe you were taught, money doesn't grow on trees. Don't waste your time. Those big dreams are only for famous people, celebrities. It's not for people like us. Well, I just want to tell you, that's hogwash. That is a load of baloney, as we say in Texas. So if that's the case, then you've got some serious work to do this year on reprogramming your mind and your consciousness to dream big and then dream bigger. How do you know even where to start with your dreams? Well, one of the first and easiest things that we can do is decide what would it look like to live a life that I absolutely love. And then we start saying no to everything that isn't that. So maybe that's step one, is just to sit down with yourself with your favorite drink in a corner, in a quiet place in your house, one night this week, and just start journaling. What would it look like to live a life I love? And they also say that 9/10 of the law is figuring out what you don't want. So look around at your life right now and go, what are all the things that just make you feel ick? All the things that bother you, that trigger you, that drive you crazy, that frustrate you. And then we can figure out how to move from point A to point B. I can help you with that if you would like. But learning how to intentionally and purposefully create a life you love is all about navigating yourself from where you are right now to where you want to be. And a lot of this has to do with shedding any iota of victim's mentality, where we blame our situation, our circumstances, the government, our parents, our boss, our spouse, our family, our past. As long as we are blaming anything around us, then we are in a prison, a self-imposed prison, where we are completely powerless to take control of our lives and our future. And if I want to live as a creator, if I want to step into my true purpose in life, I've got to shed any ounce of victim's mentality. And so that means that I start taking responsibility for my life. Now, it doesn't mean that everything around me is my fault, but it does mean that I take responsibility for how I'm going to change it and what I'm going to do with it from this point forward. Because living as a champion means, okay, I can't change what happened to me in the past, but I can now say what I do with it from this point forward is entirely up to me. And if I want to step into my purpose, into my destiny, into my true greatness this year, then absolutely that is a big part of eating that elephant one bite at a time, because that past programming is going to come back and haunt us again and again and again. And so shedding all of that old negative self-talk is a daily exercise. It's an ongoing activity. Just like you got to brush your teeth every day, hopefully twice a day. You've got to shed that old programming and those old limiting beliefs every single day. So as I am standing right now on the cusp of a brand new year, looking out at, hey, I've got a fresh slate. I've got a clean slate. Okay, but maybe I've already blown it since Rosh Hashanah, since Yom Kippur. I know I have on several things. And that's what we have to learn from Parshat Noach, is that it's never too late for a new beginning. It tells us in Tehillim, in Psalms, that God's mercies are new every morning. And Parshat Noach is all about the flood. And Chassidus teaches us that the deeper meaning of the flood it wasn't a punishment. It was actually a purification. And the waters of Torah are there to purify us every single day. All we have to do is decide and show up to the process. So this week, as we're here in the middle of Parshat Noach, in the purifying waters of the flood, we have to decide, am I going to go forward to new uncharted territory where I've never been before because I am believing in my power and I am stepping into my greatness? Or am I going to run back to my comfort zone? And I want to tell you a quick story. So this year, as in many years in the past, we had we held the chickens in our backyard in our goat shed before the kaparot of Yom Kippur. So many of you are familiar with, there's a tradition, a custom dating all the way back to Torah times when the Beis HaMikdash was standing, when the Holy Temple was standing in Yerushalayim. And there is a process of Yom Kippur that right before, so on Erev Yom Kippur, the morning, wee hours of the morning, then there is a sacrifice of these chickens that stands in the place of every Jew. And many people today still do this, or they give money in place of it, and you can decide either way. But we have these chickens in our backyard leading up to Yom Kippur. And crazy story, but one of these chickens escaped and survived the kaparot. And I found this one chicken on the morning of Simchat Torah dancing in my backyard. And the symbolism of this chicken dancing in my backyard on the day of Simchat Torah did not go lost on me, because it literally escaped certain death and it was dancing with joy on Simchat Torah. But that's not the point of this story. The point of this story is that when I went the next day to check on this chicken, so once I discovered it had been living, we literally had one very free-range chicken living in our backyard unbeknownst to me. It's a big space and there's lots of places it could hide. It was there for 2 weeks and I never saw it. Once I saw it, then I started taking food and water to it to make sure that it would stay alive and healthy, because clearly God had a plan for this chicken. So as I went out there to find this chicken and to bring it food and water, I scared it. And guess what happened to that chicken? It ran back exactly to the shed where it had been hiding and where we had taken all of the other chickens for kaparot. So we have a lesson to learn from this chicken, that this is exactly what we don't want to do. We don't want to be a chicken. We don't want to run back to our comfort zone, because it ran back to the exact spot where all of its friends had been led to a certain death. Why did it go there? Because it was comfortable there. So that's our inclination. That's our human nature. Whenever we get tested, whenever we get stressed, whenever we get challenged, whenever we get triggered, by nature, we fall back and run to our comfort zone. And that is one of the single greatest opportunities that we have this year, is to rise above mediocrity and to step out of our comfort zone, draw a line of excellence in the sand and say, I'm not going back. No matter what it takes, I'm going forward. And I'm going to be a pioneer in the uncharted territory of my own greatness this year. See, a lot of us, we think, I'm not meant to be a leader. That's nonsense. Every single one of us are the leading lady or the leading man of our own life. Why on earth do you want to play a supporting character in your own life story? And this is our chance. This is your opportunity right now at the beginning of a brand new year to decide, I am going to step into my greatness this year. I am going to discover my purpose this year. What does that look like? How do I do that? We can do that together this year. I am more than happy to be your traveling buddy and your tour guide as we go through this process of unraveling our greatness and discovering our purpose together. But today, right now, at the beginning of this journey, it's deciding, is that what I want to do? And how we do that, first of all, we just make the decision. Am I willing? Am I ready to discover my greatness, to discover my purpose? You are never too old and you are never too young to discover your purpose and tap into your greatness. It doesn't matter if you are 20 or 80 or 15 or 95, Because a person's purpose typically doesn't necessarily span a 100-year lifetime. People have different degrees of their purpose in different seasons of life, and that's okay. So don't be overwhelmed by thinking, oh, it's so big to discover my purpose. We're going to start right now with what's your purpose for this year. And then we can look at 10 years, 20 years down the road as we get warmed up. In Texas, we have a phrase, ready, fire, aim. So you get a little bit ready, then you pull the trigger, then you recalibrate and you aim better, and then you do it again. And that's how you get better. So we don't have to get overwhelmed by this thought of perfection and my purpose for the whole rest of my life. Let's just start with this year. And let's look at, what do I want to create this year? So here's how we're going to start this. We're going to start with the end in mind. A year from now, what would your life need to look like for you to be pleased, proud, and satisfied with your life? If in 1 year from now, let's say Rosh Hashanah next year, you look back and you do a summary of your life, as we are all invited and challenged to do leading into Rosh Hashanah every year. So we do a cheshbon, an accounting, and we look back and we see, what do I have to be proud of this year? Where did I blow it this year? What do I want to improve for next year? So as you look forward, if you can fast forward, let's start with the end in mind and look backward and say, what would this year need to look like in order for me to be pleased, proud, and satisfied? Where you would be so excited with yourself of the progress that you made this year. Tony Robbins says that most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in a lifetime. So we are not expecting you to wave a magic wand and become everything you ever wanted to be in the next 360 days. But we're saying, what would make it a start that you're super proud of? Let's start there. That's what I'm going to challenge you to think about this week. If you could move out of your comfort zone, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you dream of doing? And I dare you, I challenge you to share it with me. You can send me a message here. You can write it in the comments. You know, that's really one of the most important steps of accountability, is sharing it with somebody outside of yourself. And statistics from psychological research shows that simply by writing it down, you are 90% more likely to accomplish your goal than if you just keep it up here. Because here the self-talk drowns it out. So let's recap. We're standing here in Parshat Noach. We just came out of the high holidays. We just finished the beginning. We just finished Parshat Bereshit, the beginning, literally the beginning of the Torah in Genesis. Now we're in the second portion of the Torah, where we are learning about Noah and the flood, and we are understanding it's not a punishment. It is a purification, which means it's never too late. So even if I didn't do anything with my life through the month of Tishrei, through the high holidays, maybe I was overwhelmed, maybe I was busy, maybe I just wasn't in a place where I could think about it properly. It's never too late. And the Baal Shem Tov teaches us that anything that falls into your sphere of experience is there as a divine opportunity, custom made just for you in your life. So the fact that you're listening to this video right now means that it's divine providence, that it is a personalized call, an invitation just for you to step into your greatness this year. Do you have the guts? Are you willing? Yes, you're busy, blah, blah, blah. The whole world's busy. I think my personal opinion is that busy is a four-letter word. And it simply means that you're not in control of your life, that the winds blow and the outside forces are controlling your life more than your own purposeful intention. Really? Is that who you want to be? No, it's not. You want to be the leading lady, the leading man of your own life. Start now. Start today. If you knew you couldn't fail, how would you love to orchestrate your life so that you could be proud of yourself 1 year from now? See, as you start out on any journey, you've got to know where you're going, which is the most important part. That's the destination, right? That's point B on the map. And you also have to take a very clear, honest accounting with yourself of where you are right now. So then we can start to navigate the journey of point A to point B. Are you gonna have detours? Yes. Are you gonna have distractions? Yes. Are you gonna have car trouble along the way? Yes. Life happens. That's the entire purpose of man. Man was made to toil. It's not meant to be easy in this life, in this world. That's what Olam Abba, the next life, is all about. It's all easy there because you have a divine and direct revelation of godliness. Here it's hidden, and that's what makes it hard. But that's the whole purpose of this world, is to create a dwelling place for God in this world. And he prefers to be here because he knows that it's work for us. Up there, it's easy. But we're also told that when we get to the next world, we wish we were here because here you have the merit of choice. Here you have the power of choice because God reveals himself so deeply that it takes hard work, emotional labor, and spiritual effort to sift through the garbage and choose to do the right thing and choose to rise to your highest, best self, even in spite of the drama and the journey. So, how do you know if you have the power? Simply because the fact that you're sitting right here, right now. God never gives you a test that you can't pass. And you're not born and made to survive. My friend, you were made to thrive. And this is your year. This is your time to shine. Not just because you want to be a creator instead of a consumer. Yes, you want to make a positive impact on the world around you, but you want to step into your best self. And you can never become your best self simply by being a consumer, staying safely in your little bubble. Because part of the work, the avoda, the effort, is as you go through the trials and struggles that you will most definitely face this year. That's where your character is born. That's what makes you stronger. Just like every physical workout, your muscles are sore after you're getting started in a new workout. It's the exact same thing with your mental muscles, your emotional and your spiritual muscles. They get a workout too, because that's the entire process of you stepping out of your comfort zone. It's not easy. It's called the comfort zone for a reason. And everybody around you, all of your mediocre little amoeba friends that live in that comfort zone with you, they're not gonna like it when you step out of that comfort zone, because then they have to confront themselves. Why'd you leave them? So it's much easier for them to yank you back down into your comfort zone than have to deal with you leaving. So don't be surprised if everybody around you starts to give you a hard time as you decide to start making change. And remember that you become like the 5 people you hang around the most. So maybe it's time to get a new inner circle this year, to find a new circle. You can still keep your friends, you can still keep your family, but part of you stepping into your greatness is attracting and designing a new inner circle, a new life committee, a new group of power partners that are equally invested in stepping into their own greatness and their own power. And just think about it. You have a divinely ordained power inside of you. It's a part of every single Jew. It's like a pilot light. It's always there. It's always on. It's our job to ignite it and fan that flame. And think about it. You're going to burn like a bonfire. You're going to be shining so greatly and so brightly. People are going to come just to watch you burn, baby. In a good way, because you will be on fire with the passion of creating a life you love and stepping into your own destiny this year. I love you, my friend. I can't wait to hear about it. Remember, getting started with anything is always the hardest part. And if you've ever heard the story of a hero's journey, there is always something that instigates that journey. And then as that hero in the making starts out, he has obstacles, he has struggles, he doubts himself, he second guesses himself, he almost turns back. Something inside propels him forward, and he decides to muster all of that inner, latent inner strength that was there all along, but just like that pilot light, he hadn't ignited it yet. And then that's what happens in the second half and the end of his journey. As he is stepping into his greatness, then what happens at the end? He finds himself back at home. His entire environment hasn't necessarily changed, but what changed? He changed here and here. And that's exactly our journey together this year. Discovering your dreams, stepping into your greatness, and tapping in to your ultimate potential. I love you, my friend. It's going to be an amazing year.